Check, check, check. Aloha. You are listening to KPMW Maui Mix 105.5 FM on your radio dial. Your Pinoy hit station, Puso ng Pilipino, the heart of the Filipino in Hawaii. Hali'i Maili. I started a little bit early actually, so I'm going to put that one back on. I looked at our wrong timer here. I thought we only had 2 minutes. Turned out we had 8 minutes. I'm still a little bit sick. Let me get this thing on standby. We are here at KPMW Mix FM 105.5 radio station here on the island of Maui. We're broadcasting also on the X space, holding the space. We'll have perhaps Ralph Kushney come in a little while. He is the election commissioner here in Hawaii who started doing all of the audits and getting everybody else to start paying attention and really digging in and looking at what is going on with the election commission, with the office of elections, with the chief chief elections officer, Scott Nago. It's a very interesting story, interesting background here in Hawaii. We have years of video from the Elections Commission's meetings and evidence where they even voted to not obey the Sunshine Law. The Sunshine Law being the one that forces the government to be transparent with us. So today we're going to get into that. We'll play an update from the new elections commissioner, Tamara Mackay. Give me a few minutes, guys, as we are still getting ready to do the broadcast on the radio. We're about 8 minutes out. So just give me a good minute. How's it, John? We're about 6 minutes out before we start the broadcast here at Maui Mix 105.5 FM. I'll check out your account. If you want to grab a mic, then please raise your hand or request a mic. I'll check it out. We got to follow FCC laws, no cursing, no advertising, no promotion of drug use, any of that stuff. So if you grab the mic today, please be very, very mindful of that, because I can get into hot water personally if anybody goes against those policies. We're about 5 minutes out still, and I'm getting set up here in the studio, simulcasting on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, Instagram, one-man production team, trying to figure out how to rub my belly, pat my head, all at the same time as riding this unicycle, doing this broadcast on the radio at the same time, trying to think about what I'm saying and make sense while I'm doing three other things. It's really fun. I don't know if you can hear me very well. If the mic is okay, then give me a thumbs up. Hey, how's it? Maui for Trump. My big brother, Aaron Cannon, the founder of Maui for Trump, is here in the space. Do you want to request a mic, brother? I'm doing a little sound check. I'd like to see if you can get on the mic. We're still a few minutes out anyway, 4 minutes to be exact. Then I will do the call sign again and get this party started. Getting the computer power dialed in, getting my sound check on. It's crazy, and I've only got a couple minutes to do this before each episode. I've got to like rush into the radio station and come in after Mrs. Piros finishes her show with just a couple minutes to spare, and try to actually do a show at the same time. It's fun. But I talked to one guy today. He was talking about doing a MAGA podcast collaboration. That would be cool if I could work with some producers or something to make this show a lot better, and then also to invite more guests, keep the qualified guests coming in. Let me check it out here. All right, I got, oh, that's Jen, not John. Sorry, Jen. I think that's Jen, my friend Jen. Yes. I would very much like to hear from you if you could. I'm going to invite both of you guys to speak. Ralph said that he will come in at some point today, maybe. But I've got a few videos from him and from Tamara Mackay, our newest elections commissioner. And I would like to play those for everybody to listen to on the radio, which is 3 minutes out. So in the meantime, I'm going to load up my extra X space thingy here, because it's a miracle that I'm even able to do this at all. I don't even know how I'm able to do this, because I've got x.com open on my computer. I've got it open on the phone, which I'm talking to you guys with right now. So I'm going to have to do like a little switcheroo in a second. So we might get a little bit of feedback or echo or something. So please bear with me and forgive me for that. Probably going to hear the mic sounds or the music sound in the background for now. I'm going to just roll with that for a minute. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do a quick sound check while we're still 2 minutes out. I'm going to mute the phone and open the laptop. 105.5. Check, check. Are you guys able to hear me? If you can hear me, then please give me a thumbs up. If you're able to get the mic request, the mic invite, also feel free to give me a thumbs up. I'm going to try to figure out how to do all of this at once. Sound settings are dialed in. Sound is up there. Let's make sure we got you guys piped in. We will open with a prayer in a minute and a disclaimer, and then I will go to playing Tamra's video. We're about 20 seconds out before the show begins. Thank you guys for being a little bit of an audience for me. It makes me feel like I'm not talking into the ether. But I still don't know if you guys can hear me. Ashlyn, are you sorry, unknown intern? Do you have your x.com open or your app? Go to Maui Freedom TV, tap in, and then turn the volume down so we don't get feedback, and then put it to your ear. Make sure you can hear it. Oh, and we are live. Aloha. You are listening to KPMW Maui Mix 105.5 FM on your radio dial. I am MC Shy Guy, aka Andrew. I don't know if you guys are hearing an echo. I'm getting a little bit of an echo on my side. We are broadcasting also on x.com, which is a town hall. But first, let's get into our prayer as I work to solve this echo problem. Dear Lord, thank you very much for this opportunity to be here yet another time on the radio, speaking to the people in Hawaii, the people of Hawaii, the people of the whole world that are here, actually. Please, God, guide my voice, guide my words to do what is righteous and to inspire and enlighten the people that might be listening. In Jesus' name. Disclaimer. Listen to this broadcast at your own risk. It might offend some people. The intention is not to offend, but to enlighten and perhaps inspire, unless prohibited by law. The views and opinions expressed on this radio show podcast, Idea Exchange, might offend. They do not represent those of the station owners, the employees, the staff, the friends, the family, the uncles, the pets, anybody at all. The perspectives expressed here might not even be my own perspectives as the host, the guests as well. So we're just here for education and entertainment purposes only. So thank you everybody for coming in. We got Susie News, we got Jen, we got Maui for Trump, all in the X space, x.com/Maui Freedom TV to request a mic for anybody who's listening on the airwaves. I've got a little thing that I want to play for you guys. We can listen into our newest elections commissioner, Tamara Mackay, and what she recently said. Yesterday was the primary. In case you didn't know, we were supposed to be voting in person yesterday, and some people did, some people didn't. And I wonder what the listeners are thinking about our local elections and if we actually have a real election. But let's listen to Tamara, and then I'll try to open up the mic for some of the folks that are listening in online.
This is Commissioner Tamara Mackay. I just wanted to add a little bit to Commissioner Cushnie's post that he did and confirm the information that he did share was true. We both filed to the Supreme Court to have them get involved. What is going on is that the Office of Elections is not cooperating in holding a meeting, and there is resolution, and that comes through Robert's Rules of Order that was adopted by the Commission, and that gives a solution. And right now, the Office of Elections, which is supposed to be under the commissioners, is supposed to support and help find resolve. And we also see that Scott Nago is not participating in this support, but the commission is supposed to be his supervisor as well. It's very concerning since it's election time and we need resolve and we need you, the people, to get involved. Aloha, everyone. This is
So that was Election Commissioner Tamara Mackay letting us know that we've got a Supreme Court case ahead of us in regards to the Hawaii elections because the Elections Commission has been blocked from having meetings. The Elections Commission is charged with overseeing the Office of Elections and the Chief Elections Officer. We are told that we have free and fair elections here in Hawaii, but yet there are, what is it, 19,000 extra ballots unaccounted for on Big Island, and none of our counties can provide chain of custody documentation. So this is quite a conundrum, quite a situation that we are facing now as a community. And let's see if I can get rid of this lovely, lovely echo and allow a few of our friends to come in and share their ideas with what's going on. Susie News is actually helping with one candidate over on the island of Kauai. Oh, oops, am I muted on there? Am I muted on the X Space, guys? Can you hear me? Jen has got a mic. I'm trying to give Susie a mic. She was helping a mayoral candidate on the island of Kauai, Magezo, and was actually shut out of the meeting. And I would like to hear if we've got any updates since we've been through the primary yesterday. Jen, are you able to unmute? Actually, for the folks, I'd like you to know, actually, Jen is really on the ground with this and gathering volunteers and poll watchers. She has been very instrumental here on the island of Maui, getting a diverse group of different types of people together to actually watch the polls. People from all sides, as far as my understanding. Jen really went over and above when it came to recruitment and having a sensible system so that no one poll watcher would have to stand there for 8 hours or 12 hours. She set it up so that there would be shifts and people would be able to rotate, and there were watchers watching the watchers. So while we get that one worked out and get the mics turned on, I am going to play a few more things that are close to home right now.
You are not going to hear on the mainstream media. What you do hear is warmongers arguing that we must protect Ukraine because it is a quote-unquote democracy. But they're lying. Ukraine isn't actually a democracy. For example, to hold on to power, Ukraine's president shut down the 3 TV stations that were openly criticizing him and his policies, imprisoned the head of the opposition political party that had come in second place in their elections, and went and arrested and jailed that party's leaders. This is exactly what Putin has been accused of doing. But Ukraine did this all with the support of the United States. Now, here's something you are not going to hear on the mainstream media.
So that is Tulsi Gabbard speaking there. Shout out to Tulsi. She said very clearly that the mainstream media is not talking about it. And they say that it's all about democracy, 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 but what is democracy actually? People have this keyword in their brains and don't really seem to think about what democracy is supposed to mean. It was, shall we say, discovered by the Greeks, invented, created, adopted first by the Greeks, where people could represent themselves and have a self-guiding government of the people, by the people, for the people. But historically, what does any democracy end up devolving to? That is a question that I want everybody to think about. To me, it looks like a marketing war. Whoever's got more marketing dollars wins the popularity contest, and people vote for free stuff more than they vote for freedom. And again, back to that old thing that I always repeat, I don't see the word democracy in the US Constitution anywhere. I do, however, see Article 4, Section 4 saying that we are guaranteed a Republican form of government in every state. Whether or not Hawaii is a state is debatable, but we have to work on this whole corrupt American system before we can have ho'oponopono, which is reconciliation with the history and the nuance of what happened and what is happening here in Hawaii. I got another one that I want to play for you guys while we get this mic thing worked out. This is from Ralph. Wait a second. Ralph Kushney, the elections commissioner who was the first one to stick his neck out, I should say, or to be so famously recognized for it. Listen to Ralph.
From the Hawaii State Elections Commission. Today is August 6th, around 10:30. I walked back into the counting center today to ask for the transfer logs from the county to the state. Reed Hashisaka from the counting center said that he was instructed by Ali'i 10 in the Office of Elections not to give me any records. So this was recorded on the police camera, so that is memorialized somewhere. Right now, they're not letting me, as an elections commissioner, look at any transfer logs accounting for how many ballots they transferred from the county to the state. And we have it on record that the Office of Elections, Ali'i 10, is directing the state counting center employees not to give me any records. So thank you. I'll keep you posted and stay tuned.
So we've got some names named. We've got very direct and obvious corruption. Why are these people blocking an elections commissioner from auditing? And if anybody who's listening has actually been tracking and showing up to the Zoom calls for the Hawaii Elections Commission for the past few years, you will know that there is a wide pattern of this type of cover up, of people pushing to just forget about it and just repeat the line that we have the most secure elections in history. Don't believe your lying eyes. Don't look at the evidence. Just believe what we say and business as usual. I heard today that Mayor Richard Bisson, the guy who presided over the Maui massacre. That's right, I said massacre. Disclaimer, the views and opinions may not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the station owners or advertisers or sponsors or anyone. But yep, I called it the Maui massacre. That's when all those people died from those crazy fires that didn't make any logical bit of sense at all. They didn't seem wild at all. And Missin Bisson, well, he was missing. And now, somehow, magically, this guy is counted as the top vote in Maui for mayor yesterday in our primaries. Him and Yuki Sugimura. Huh. So we have two options from the same team. They're both pretty tightly connected to Democrats. I know Governor Abercrombie that what's the word for it? That appointed Bisson as a judge in the first place was allegedly a Republican. But we're going back to that whole saying of two wings and the same bird. My experience in the Republican Party here in Hawaii and what I've heard from other libertarians is that all of these political parties are pretty infiltrated, and it is really the same bird wearing a different color. So whether they're wearing red, they're wearing blue, they're wearing green, party, Aloha Aina party, Hawaiian Kingdom, whatever it is, there are a lot of people in there that don't really believe in whatever that banner is that they're waving. And their job is just to get in and make havoc and to keep people separated, to keep us from uniting, keep us all fighting each other, keep us with full of shock and outrage. I know there was some former Democrat congressional skinny white dude, uh, as they called him, the Howley guy, like trying to pick one fight on the beach, acting like a total clown and just yeah, unbelievable. That's why it's embarrassing to be here sometimes because people act like this this is like a grown man who's over 40 acting like some liberal Karen who's like a 20-year-old kindergarten teacher yelling about all the expletives. I don't know if you guys have seen those videos, but yeah, one of these teachers actually here on the island of Maui did that, started screaming at me, and I just asked her, "Are you becoming?" And she said, "What?" I said, "Yeah, I think you're kind of unbecoming of an educator when you're yelling expletives like that and you're cursing at people you don't agree with. I'm not sure that you're really that well qualified to be leading our young ones. If you want to be disagreeing with people, then there's a civil way to do it. There's a way to sit down on the radio show and have a civil discussion and agree to disagree. We don't have to yell and scream at each other. But yeah, let's go to our next little clip, guys. I've prepared a whole little string of clips for you.
Did you know that the people of Hawaii no longer count the ballots?
Let's try
Did
this.
you know that the people of Hawaii no longer count the ballots? The ballots are counted by a company from Texas. We know almost nothing about this company, and everything they do is proprietary. When election officials say that observers watch the ballots being counted, the observers are only watching the ballots being scanned into a computer. It is almost the same as if the observers watch the sealed boxes go into a warehouse. The door opens just high enough for the boxes to slide in. The observers are not allowed to enter the room. They wait outside overnight while the actual counting happens behind closed doors. In the morning, a computer printout of the results is slipped out under the door. No one verified that the ballots were counted correctly. Did the observers really watch the ballots being counted? Did you know that the people of Hawaii know?
That was another great post from Ralph Kushnie, Ralph underscore Kushnie, Cushnie underscore elections underscore on Instagram. He just keeps spilling the beans and it keeps leaking out. And I don't think that the dam gates can hold for much longer because the people of Hawaii are hearing this and they're seeing it from other election commissioners like Papalimu. She is talking a lot of sense these days. Um, yeah, there was formerly Dylan Adrian who was on this episode or on this podcast a few weeks ago speaking about this. He saw it with his own eyes. Tamara Mackay is in there now, and she understands Robert's rules of order. That's the rules that we have to follow when we are in government meetings or official proceedings so that it doesn't just become a shouting match. But the elections commissioners and the chair, Mike Curtis, all agreed to follow Robert's rules of order, but then immediately failed to do so. They've muted microphones repeatedly. They have removed commissioners from the meetings with plainclothes police, like like Gestapo style. It is really astounding to me. So let's hear another one from Ralph.
Elections happening, general election happening in November. How much faith can an average voter like myself have that the results that we're going to get are actually the real results? What do you think?
I have zero confidence, and I hate to say that, but If you look back in the last 2.5 years on how I've been treated in the Elections Commission for asking these questions, simple questions. How many ballots did the county collect? How many did the state count? And watch how they muted my microphone, had the police remove me. You don't do that when everything's good. They would open the books and show them to us and say, here's how we do everything. I have zero confidence.
You know, primary elections happening, general election happening in November. How much faith can an average voter like myself have that the results that we're going to get are actually the real results? What do you think?
I have zero confidence, and I hate to say that, but if you look back in the last 2.5 years on how I've been treated in the Elections Commission for asking these questions, simple questions. How many ballots did the county collect? How many did the state count? And watch how they muted my microphone, had the police remove me. You don't do that when everything's good. They would open the books and show them to us and say, here's how we do everything. I have zero confidence.
You know, primary elections happening, general election
Shout out
happening.
to the Respect podcast. That is one that I grabbed off of Instagram there, that was interviewing Ralph. So it sounds like Sir Kushney is making his rounds around Hawaii with local influencers on podcasts, and I'm seeing videos of like some straight up Kanaka Hawaii, like real local Hawaiians, people that are like have bloodlines here, long bloodlines, who are also just calling out this Democrat sham. We get this guy, skinny white guy, trying to beat up local Hawaiians, and just what an embarrassment. And I'm not going to say that every single Republican is just as decent as what I hope we all can be, but I just have not seen that in the Republican Party or on the Republican side where somebody's going to just act like that in public. I have seen infighting on the Republican side from people that I don't believe are actually Republicans. And what is a Republican, really? Republican is also a type of government where we get to choose our representatives. And in my mind, it's not exactly like the elite system because that comes from royal blood or comes through the bloodlines of the king. But the thing is, the elite were people of ability. They were people who could make things happen, who could gather teams together and make life move forward on the islands. And in my mind, that is what republicanism is about. I get behind Ralph because I see that he has the ability to do these things that I don't have the time or resource to do. I see that he's not just saying these things that I want to hear. I see his actions, and I literally see the roads that this guy and his team have built over the entire island. So, I mean, honestly, if I was going to vote for someone for governor in the next few years, I would want someone like Ralph because Ralph has this experience running different teams, different cultures mixed together in the islands, right? You know if you own a house here or you just even live here, everything is hard to get an electrician, to get a plumber, to get any of the things that you need for normal daily life. It is harder here than if you're living in some big mainland type of place where everything is immediately available. And you have to have relationships and the ability to get people to do the jobs that they said that they are going to do. And you have to be able to do it while under fire. This is the funny thing, right? Like the establishment mayors and governors and county council people, they might have their infighting, but they don't have the entire matrix coming after them the way that like Donald Trump did or maybe Andrew Tate. I don't know if I really believe all of these stories, and I eat my popcorn as I watch the show, yes, but I've seen with my own eyes what happened with my brother with Maui for Trump when he got started on this road. Like the entire clown circus started circling around him, looking for anything and everything that they could do to try to hamper our efforts. And I thought it's so strange because Maui is such a small island, such a small county. Hawaii is like really not consequential on the national stage in terms of number of votes, but there are some very well financed and very well organized powers that really don't want people in Hawaii supporting Donald J. Trump. And I noticed it firsthand when my brother moved away and I took over on the ground here on the island of Maui, trying to help organize to get people to continue doing Trump rallies in his most recent presidential campaign. And the same type of weird clown show that started with Maui Freedom TV started around Maui for Trump again. There are a lot of strange people that come out of the woodwork who want to act like they're your best friend and who say that they're here to help, but really they slowly will do little things that grind you down or they spread rumors and you might not even know who it is for sure. It might take a long time for you to start to really figure out that the people that were close to you are not all real. Some of them are maybe falling to their ego and just letting their ego take over. That's a thing. You know, not everybody is nefarious, but some of them, it's not about the ego, it's about taking control and running it into the ground. And this is my litmus test that I give to people here in Hawaii. I ask them, if what you're doing is really working, how many attacks are you getting? Because we got a friend who's fighting against the mosquitoes that Bill Gates is rolling out, and that's terrible. And we should definitely fight that. But whatever she's doing or however she's doing it doesn't seem to garner the matrix coming after her. Doesn't seem to be. Like this guy, Scott Adam, who was the former Maui County Republican chair, he started a podcast called Liberty Arise, and he was going to have this guy on Oahu come on the show, and then the dude's apartment mysteriously burned down, and his father-in-law died in that fire, like a few days before he was supposed to come on the podcast. And Scott's another one who I believe got poisoned when he went to the Mike Lindell conference. He got text messages from everybody else that he met there, all saying they got some kind of weird flu that just wasn't going away after that conference. But luckily, we had some chlorine dioxide, and I asked him to detox with the chlorine dioxide, which is a good reminder for me. I had a fever all week last week. I'm sweating right now. Geez, Louise. But yeah, the chlorine dioxide seemed to knock it out for him, and he was finally able to get that brain fog to go away. Susie, Jen, hanging in there on the X Space. I'm still sending you guys another invite from my mobile device. Susie, I see as a speaker. Are you able to unmute and speak? Let's see if we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Aloha, Andrew. Aloha, Jen.
Yeah, I'm trying to take care of the echo, but maybe do you want to give us a quick recap of who you are and what in the heck is going on around here?
Well, you summed it up pretty interestingly well, Andrew. And I'm sorry to hear that you've been under the weather. There's just a lot of intense energy circulating across the archipelago, right now. And it is a battleground, just to the last man standing. I hate to say it, but the globalists are slowly, as the onion layer peels away, they're getting exposed for their deeds and their agendas. And this is really we're kind of hitting the fork in the road here. This is really the turning point of where we're going to go from here. And it gives us a lot of good views on how much of the island is still under the democratic, spell, how much has broken free. And there are some really significant strides in Republican arena. I sadly, because of the things that have happened within the Hawaii Republican Party, it has not doesn't bode well for the state. I believe a lot of that is by design. So, we'll leave that where it sits. But more on that later. That will come up as it comes up. But so yeah, there's been a lot of efforts in infiltration to try to just break the system down. Hawaii itself, the islands are the pearl of the Pacific, and this is why the globalists are fighting so hard over this turf, because it has always been their vision to see this as the playground for the elite, super elite, and to just keep enough of the population remaining as a servant class and basically run everybody else off. And that's what we've been seeing with a lot of different excuses and explanations, and silly laws and rules and everything else that they try to slip through the legislature, and the county laws. It's just a real crap show, unfortunately. But I think a lot of people are waking up to it. It's a real battle with the elections. And Ralph, God bless him, he has been out there fighting the good fight with a handful of other commissioners. The odds are stacked against him as it sits right now, because they always keep the majority of the opposition there to make sure that their power stays in place, and they won't leave by their own consent. So they'll eventually have to be removed in person. That's the only way I see the outcome of this, because of just the stranglehold they have, and they cannot let their grip loose. So we're seeing this on all levels. In some places more than others, and I worked very hard with Megeso, who was running for mayor here, who was a very awake individual and incredibly smart, and knows everything that's happening on the surface, and in the back channels and behind the scenes. Very articulate, very experienced in managing an office like the mayor, with full confidence. I have thrown my energy behind his candidacy. We knew that there were a lot of odds against us from the start, but that doesn't stop you from putting out the truth and sharing the information and letting these things kind of seep out for the public to digest. I watched a poll, and I wish I would have clipped it this morning, but there's just so much going on out there right now. In retrospect, but there was a poll that was going across the internet about how many people in Hawaii had faith in the Hawaii elections, and or I should say, do you have faith in the accuracy, the honesty of Hawaii elections? 98% voted no, no faith. That is significant. When a majority is voting against their confidence in the Hawaii elections, you get a lot of people that don't vote because they feel like it doesn't matter. Of course, we're out there trying to say it does matter. It matters no matter what, because those numbers will be found at some level at some point. But there's a general apathy of just being worn down, and that's not what they do best. The globalists, they wear people down until they run out of steam, and they're just like, well, it's a sunken ship anyway. Well, it's not. It's not. We do have, we do have an alliance that is behind the truth and behind full transparency. But you have to kind of let these guys commit the acts, the criminal acts that they're committing, so you can bring them to justice. And I think that that's also what we're bearing witness to in these primary elections, because the November election has to be secure, or our nation will be lost. I mean, that is really why everyone is paying so much attention to what's going on with the whole elections between the Hawaii archipelago and mainland America, because they know if America falls, the world falls. I mean, that is essentially true. And everyone in Europe seems to understand that more clearly than Americans themselves. And Hawaii population, because everyone has always been used to marching to their own drum. they have to understand what umbrella protection they're under during this operation, and that is the, what do you call it? From the Crown, that have looked after these nations incredibly poorly. I'm trying to come up with the word for it, but I can't off the top of my head. I need more coffee. Anyway, there's just a lot to be revealed. And one of the great ways to look into that is also Ricardo Fosi, Lieutenant Colonel. He's also retired military intelligence, and the Australian One Party and Commonwealth. That was the word. Thank you. The Commonwealth countries, who have been just so incredibly, grossly oppressed. He really spouts some incredible stark truths that I think a lot of American generals are kind of reticent to go too far. But he has a little bit more liberty to say those things, and the things that he can share are just fascinating as well. So yeah, the Commonwealth countries and Hawaii, because she took her pride in her independence from the monarchy at the time, which actually threw Hawaii under the bus. After the Civil War. Anyway, there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of confusion. So we're just going to keep going out there and putting truths. And I just want to say one more thing because I don't want to tie up too much of your time. But um, Negaso had told me this morning that he had talked to one of the constituents last evening. We had a really nice gathering. During the election finals there. It was really a nice evening to connect with everybody in person, not online.
Yes, it is.
He told them, he said, yeah, they'll either put us, he said, they'll either put me at the top or they'll put me way at the bottom. And the numbers are, I mean, even if you look at Gary Cordery's numbers versus Josh Green's, there's monkey business going out. There's monkey business afoot with the numbers. And it's like, wow, it's not even, they're not even really, being conservative about it. It's
Can
really
we can we physically be there when they certify the elections? Are you able to hear me? My mic's being
I can
funny.
hear you. I don't know. I really don't know how that unless you sign up to be a counter or something like that. I don't think you can have an audience per se because that brings in a lot of.
I thought they have some kind of official like event that they do when they certify though.
I have not borne witness to one. I sure would like to know about it if that takes place.
Because I think that's where the crime is like easy to catch. Is like when they are certifying and they know dang well that they don't have chain of custody documents or actual proof of the votes.
They're feeding our ballots that we are filling out in person into a machine. Our ballots are being fed into a machine after we fill them out by hand.
Right, our unlawful ballots, by the way, because they ask us to say what party we're in, which is violating the state constitution. And yeah, feel free to speak more, Susie. I actually prefer when other people are talking and I'm learning.
But there's a lot of anomalies here to be addressed for sure. And it's gonna essentially take probably an FBI raid to really get to the bottom of it. And no, I don't think anyone will be around to be able to watch that ringside. I think that's. I know the feds are extremely aware of what's going on in Hawaii with elections. I know that they're actively, discussing that. I also heard last night for the second time in 2 days that President Trump is considering calling a national emergency over the election problems, all the election emergencies, and the irregularities and the criminal acts that are taking place on all levels. That he is considering declaring that. So that we'll wait and see if that happens.
Well, and I think that he's waiting for people like us to wake up everyone around us so that he can actually do that. Because, yeah, I mean, he can do that, but the people need to see it clearly in order for it to be effective.
Yeah, And well, they're not going to give that information up freely. We know that it's going to have to be a forced operation because we've seen that sitting up for the many months we've sat on the commission, year long, witnessing the resistance and just the gaslighting. We know that that's not going to be voluntary. It's never going to be voluntary. They're dug in their heels, and so it's going to have to be a forced exposure. I think that's the only way that's going to happen.
And you were there when Mageso went to the mayoral candidates meeting a few weeks ago and was actually rejected from even entering the premises. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
So can you give us kind of a breakdown of like what was that event and yeah, how do we seek remedy for this? Yeah, what was the event? What actually happened? And then where do we go from here?
Well, it was a contractors association. I don't have the paperwork in front of me, so I'm just going off the lam.
Sure.
But it was a contractors association meeting. It had been put down as a public event, from my understanding, and they didn't put about that the candidates, preferred candidates only. There were a number of candidates who were ejected from that, and I mean not just say rejected, that you were told to leave or they would remove you. It was not even a friendly ask.
Maybe I should run for mayor so that they have to physically assault me because I don't mind.
Yeah, I mean,
I can take a few punches and sue a few people.
We were pretty stunned. There's Ralph. Aloha, Ralph.
Unbelievable. Yeah, welcome, Ralph, Election Commissioner Ralph Kushney. You're the man of the hour. Every hour on Sunday, we keep talking about you. I'm going to send you the microphone invite, Ralph. It would be great if we could get a more recent update. I played your update from Instagram from the 6th of August, and I also played Tamara's recent update about the Supreme Court case that sounds like it is upcoming. Let us know if you are able to accept the microphone invite, Ralph. But yeah, let's keep going.
Yeah, I'm on.
Oh, there we go. Ralph's in already. Usually it takes longer. Welcome.
Yeah, sorry, I missed what you guys were talking about. Do you want me to brief you real quick?
Yeah. Please do brief us on where we're at right now with the Elections Commission and where we're going.
So we filed a writ of mandamus into the Supreme Court on July 8th. That's still in front of the court, and we simply asked the court to compel the Office of Elections to follow the law and provide staff support to the commission so that we can organize and elect the chair. So as you guys know, the Chair Curtis canceled the last meeting, I believe purposefully, so that this chaos would ensue. And then now we've requested, we have no chair and nobody to call a meeting. So we adopted Robert's Rules of Order several months ago. And Robert's Rules of Order says that if there is no chair or vice chair or secretary, that any commissioner can call a meeting. So Tamara Mackay called a meeting on July 1st, and her and I flew down to Oahu and asked the court asked the Office of Elections to provide staff support. They refused. So on the 8th of July, we filed a case asking the court to compel them to provide that support. And it's in the law, I believe it's HRS 11.1.5, that the Office of Elections shall provide staff support to the Elections Commission. The court ordered the Office of Elections to respond to two questions. The first question was, did they withhold staff support? And number two, did that cause the Elections Commission not to vote to elect the chair? They replied and said that they didn't get a lawful request because there was no chair to request it, and that the commission did not have a majority vote to request the circular argument. You can't vote to have a chair unless you have a meeting, and you can't get majority vote unless you have a meeting. And if you have a meeting that is not organized properly with the staff support, then it's a sunshine law violation. So by their logic, the commission can never organize again once you're missing a chair. The purpose of this, I believe, is that they cannot have someone who, let's say, wants transparency and wants answers. They can't have anyone in the chair position that will look into things. They want the Chief Justice to appoint a new chair. The governor got on TV saying that same thing. And we're simply asking the court to let the commission do its own thing. So that's still in front of the court. They were, the elections, Office of Elections responded, and then we responded to them 2 Tuesdays ago. So the court has it, and we'll see what they do. If they decide that the Office of Elections does not need to provide staff support, then I would put money that the Chief Justice will then select the chair. If they decide that the Office of Election has to provide staff support, then the Elections Commission can vote on its own chair. And just for note, the Elections Commission, when it was formed in, I think it was 2004, went 3 years before they ever elected a permanent chair. So they elected temporary chairs several times, and then they finally elected a permanent chair 3 years after they were established. And the Chief Justice never got involved. So that's where we're at on that. Elections news. I went to signature verification on the island of Kauai 4 different times during this primary cycle. Of the roughly, I would say, 1,000 ballots that I watched getting signature verified, over 60% of the envelopes that were signature verified while I was watching had no voter reference signature, meaning that they pulled up an image of the envelope with the signature, but there was nothing to compare it to. I asked the county elections division personnel, I said, how do you validate that's a valid signature if there's no voter reference signature? And they said, oh, we have a voter file that we pull up if there's no voter reference signature. And then we can look in that file and see if there's a match, a signature match. Well, I find it odd that they don't have a voter reference signature, but they have a file that I cannot see and they won't allow me to see. And they can compare that file to other signatures. And I asked them to watch that process, and they said I could not because there was personal identifying information in that file. But you have election workers supposedly having access to a voter's quote unquote file, and they're able to do this in about 5 seconds. Pull up a file with other signatures and then validate the signature on the envelope. And they did it literally hundreds of times as I was watching, but they just said it passed, and I wasn't able to see it. So that is not being able to verify what they're telling me. And then also I went to the counting center on 4 different days. The first Tuesday that they processed ballots, the first Saturday that they processed ballots. And then the following week on Tuesday, I got there late and I asked to see the transfer logs. And the first 2 days, I was able to look at the transfer logs. I asked to see the transfer logs, and they would not allow me to see them. Actually, they gave them to me. I started writing down the numbers, and the head of the counting center came over and asked me why I was looking at the records. And basically, I said I'm a commissioner, and he knew that. But he said, no, you can't look at those, and they took them away and hid those from me. Um, I asked the police that were there to witness that. The police were not really keen on getting involved. I went back on Thursday, did the same thing, and they denied the records. So basically, it's coming down to the Elections Commission is supposed to oversee the Office of Elections. But the Office of Elections obviously is in control because they're dictating whether or not we can meet, and they're dictating what records we can look at. So that's my quick report. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you so much, Ralph. I will open the floor to anybody else who wants to ask questions first. Susie has a mic. I'm trying to invite Doug and Jen as well. Sorry, Louisiana, y'all. I need to get to know you first before I can give you a mic. We are live on the radio right now, so we have to follow FCC rules. Susie, are you with us? Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, Ralph, wow. Can you recap for us one more time about the 60% of ballots that had no signature reference? And this was on Kauai. This was last night. Did I understand you correctly?
No, I went on 4 different days to watch the signature verification. And so I wrote it down. I don't remember. It was last week, and I think I went 3 times last week and 1 time this past week to watch how the envelopes get signature verified. And so what they do is they have screens in a hallway that you can watch, and then they pull up an envelope, a picture of an envelope, a scan of an envelope, and then they zoom in on the signature, and they bring that signature up on the screen, kind of to the upper left part of the screen. Above that is supposed to be a voter reference signature, which would be the signature on your registration, is what most people would think that would be. But 60% of the envelopes over 60% of the envelopes that I watched being signature verified had no voter reference signature. So it's my understanding that they were having issues with the machine, and that was across the state. So I'm trying to get more information about that. But we don't know that any of these envelopes I've not been able to verify that envelopes were actually signature verified. Validated is what they call it. Signature validated.
Absolutely stunning. It's like zero transparency when it comes down to trying to just get any kind of accountability.
So, Ralph, I wanted to, can you guys hear me clearly?
Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, are any national level media outlets calling you, Ralph, and trying to hear about this story from you?
No national and no local media. One podcaster reached out to me, just a local podcaster, and that's it.
Shout out to the Respect podcast. I saw that clip. They're doing a great thing there. So I want to encourage everybody who's here listening to share this and to share Ralph's account and to start tagging some of these big influencers that are focused on election integrity, as well as the mainstream media. I think that if enough of us push hard, then we can kind of force the mainstream media to report on this. Sorry to cut you off, Susie. Did you have more questions for Ralph?
I really appreciate information, Ralph, and your videos. You've been so wonderfully consistent in your sharing and your updates. And we do need to get more national attention to this. This is critical. And I'm just so grateful that we've got someone like you out there fighting the good fight, and some of the other, good, honest commissioners that are really trying to just, lean towards transparency, because it just seems that they get more and more brazen with every election, because they just think that their accountability isn't going to be called to question, or it's not going to ever come to a place where they're forced to have to you know, spill the goods there. And this has to change. And the only way to change it is to make enough noise about it, shout it from the mountaintops, and put the data out there so people can see that it's, that it's factual, that this is really happening. This is just, and it's a travesty to Hawaii and a disservice to voters whose vote is sacred. Ralph, anything you'd like to add?
No, and that's what we're learning is that, the first year and a half that I was on the commission, the news wouldn't report on it. So people like Andrew talked me into trying to post, and I never even watched or had social media. And so that's what I'm doing now since last May. It's just sharing out what's happening, and now it's getting some traction. People are seeing that it's out there, and people are shocked at what's really happening, but now they're finding out about it. So just share it out and share it with people, have a conversation. Candidates are starting to speak about this. Gary Cordery was on the radio speaking about this yesterday. There's other candidates speaking about this. But I'm sure there's a bunch of candidates that ran that are scratching their head thinking the results don't seem like the way I would thought they would be. But we're not able to verify anything they've told us. They just print out a piece of paper. And I put out an AI video yesterday about that. So I hope that explains to people really what's going on. And then I'm going to do some more on the audits that they perform, that they say validate the computer printout. And all of these audits are performatory at best. The audits are not meaningful at all.
Okay, so it's just like the dog and pony show, cursory check, not a real check. I want to ask you about the writ of mandamus. That is the filing that you did yesterday with the Supreme Court. What is a writ of mandamus, and did the Supreme Court answer you back saying that they've received it, or are we expecting months and maybe years of legal battle with this?
Yeah, so this is the furthest we got with our court cases. And possibly Doug could, I thought I saw him on here. Yeah, I see him on here. He probably could explain this a little bit better. Doug, you want to take a stab at it?
Well, I missed a little bit because I was trying to get a microphone set up, but I heard a good bit of what you were talking about. I think the first thing I would say without knowing what you've covered already is one of the takeaways from this journey from the last several years of watching the election process.
Hang on, Doug. So you can go into the next, but he was asking what the writ means and what we asked and what the court replied with.
Oh, the petition for the writ of mandamus was basically simplistically stated is whether or not the Office of Elections has to follow a statute that tells them that they're required to provide support to the Elections Commission. And that statute is very clear. It doesn't say that they shall only provide support to a chair. It doesn't say that they shall only provide support to the commission if approved by the Attorney General. It doesn't say that they shall only provide support to the commission if they vote on it. What it says is they shall provide administrative support to the commission. And that's a ministerial statute, which means they're required by law to provide a specific service. And where this gets interesting is by them refusing to do that, they effectively have taken control of the exact body that was designed to oversee them. And they're holding the Elections Commission hostage to a rule that they're interpreting a different way than the commissioners are interpreting it. And so that question has been put in front of the court to essentially interpret the rule. And the commissioners presented the question to the court, and the court then subsequently directed the Office of Elections to answer whether or not they did or did not deny support. And interestingly, in the Office of Elections response, The chief elections officer didn't respond. The clerk responded, which, if you're watching this from a big, from the 50,000 foot view, you basically see that the supervisor put the clerk under the bus and didn't take responsibility for the conduct of the staff that that supervisor is required to support and to direct. And so the clerk answered the question, he didn't answer the question that the court asked. So by not answering the question, they effectively did show in the record that the Office of Elections didn't provide support. So where this is interesting and important is also that the legislature doesn't write statutes to be self-defeating. So imagine this scenario. You've got a legislature that's run by a Speaker of the House. The Speaker of the House one day just decides to resign, and all of a sudden there's no successor for that Speaker of the House because there's no continuity plan, just like there was no continuity plan in the commission. Well, all of a sudden what you're saying is the House is completely disabled until somebody else, other than the House of Representatives, who are a body that can organize themselves, get together and organize and actually do the next right thing, which is lead. Let's select a leader to take charge and to do the functions upon which we're supposed to perform. And so the legislature doesn't write statutes that way, and if they do, they're called self-defeating. So it's kind of ironic that the Office of Elections would interpret this statute and say, well, you know what, I'll be frank, Mr. Curtis basically was, he was the captain of the ship until the 30th of June, and he jumped overboard on the 30th of June. He left it without a rudder. All the commissioners that are sitting on the ship, a bunch of them just put their heads in the sand and didn't do anything, but a couple stepped forward, and those that did, that's called leadership. They stepped forward. They said, hey, we need to call a meeting. And now the actual slave master on the ship, if you will, is saying, no, you can't do that because you didn't get approval, prior to actually asking for this support. So it's very ironic what is occurring. And it'll be very interesting to see what the Supreme Court decides and whether or not they use their jurisprudence to recognize that you can't run a statute, you can't write a statute in such a manner that it defeats itself and you leave yourself without any options, because the only way for the commission to exercise any options is to organize. And that's exactly what they tried to do. So hopefully that clarifies that question. Maybe there's another, and I'll yield for others.
Yeah, thank you so much, Doug. Was Gary able to make it through the primaries yesterday, or have they just written in a fake number for him too?
I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but I did look at the printout, and the printouts for the governor's race on the Democratic side, Green came out on top, and on the Republican side, Gary came out on top. What's interesting though is if you look at this primary and past primaries.
Oh, Doug's microphone seems to have dropped. Is anybody else able to hear Doug? I can't. Oh,
I got you.
You're back. Go ahead, Doug. You said in the past primaries, and then what?
Yeah, in the past primaries, the split between, let's just call it the majority party and the minority party, is around 110, 120, 130,000 votes. And one of the things that's interesting, and as you know, a lot of people in the state have been focused on voter rolls. The state's voter rolls grew from 2014 to 2024 by about 110,000 votes. And the last count I saw for what they're reporting right now is Hawaii still has around 850,000 voters. The voting population hasn't declined. It's actually continued to increase and it's been on a slight decline, but the population of Hawaii is declining. So there is an incongruity between what the voter rolls say and the number of votes or voters that have been added since around the mid-2000 teens, and now the differences are the.
Oh, we have dropped Doug again. Let's see if his mic comes back in. This is very fascinating hearing from him. He's working with Gary Cordery, who is running for governor. and former Marine commander, I believe, from my memory, also a key speaker in our elections commission meetings, a speaker from the public who is talking a lot of sense about what is going on. I think, okay, Doug's popped back down to listener. I'll send him another mic invite, see if it comes back. Thanks everybody for your patience in this. We are here on the X.com platform, which can sometimes be a little bit unstable, but that is the cost that we pay for this digital town hall. And it is an amazing tool because we are able to connect with not only people here around the archipelago, and we can connect with people all around the world. Susie, are you still up and able to speak? I would love to hear more and learn more from you because I know that you're on the ground here in Hawaii doing the work, but you're also very updated on what's going on around the country and around the world. Go ahead, Susie.
He does because I would love to hear more. The details of what's happening um, behind the voter rolls, I think, is critical for people to understand locally and to be able to explain that in detail. I think it's just so valuable. And Ralph, gosh, I just thank you so much for just being a warrior for transparency. You have really dedicated a big chunk of your life to do this, and I just want you to know that we are just not only behind you, we just honor you so incredibly for the work and just putting your neck out there like you have. My gosh, it's just been an amazing journey. Um, so I'm just trying to think what else you wanted me to speak about. Was there something? I don't want to take us off topic, really, because we did go through these primary elections last night, and I'm having trouble pulling up today's numbers. I've got yesterday's numbers coming up here, but even from the county, I'm having trouble pulling up today's numbers, which is really kind of interesting.
Yeah, it is
Anything
funny
else I
how
can
these
think
things
of?
happen. We're at the top of the hour, so let me do the radio call sign real quick. You are listening to KPMW Maui Mix 105.5 FM, your Pinoy hit station, Puso ng Filipino, the heart of the Filipino in Hawaii, Hali'i Miley. I'm MC Shy Guy, aka Andrew. You're listening to Idea Exchange. The views and opinions expressed on this show do not necessarily reflect those of the station owners, the advertisers, their friends, family, pets, uncles, sisters, cousins, or anyone in general. We're talking to Susie News, Ralph Kushney, Elections Commissioner of Hawaii, Doug Pasnick, Patriot, Truth Teller, and we've got Jen in here as well. She was uh, organizing the poll watchers here on the island of Maui. Hopefully, she will be able to unmute her mic. Susie, yeah, I think that it's good for us to just keep going around, not just focused on this election thing right now, but all of the other factors that connect to it, because it is an ecosystem that we are a part of here in the archipelago, a microcosm, but also as part of the entire United States thing. I didn't know that actually, that our Republican Party has to sign off for a Republican candidate to get elected as president. So actually, our little state or our little group here is very important when it comes to presidential elections. And what Ralph and what everybody is doing here together is critical because if we can really open it up here in Hawaii, then this can spread around the entire country. Go ahead, Susie.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. Hawaii is a very valuable, um, you know, series of just incredibly beautiful islands that has its own natural ecosystem that has really kind of been an example for the world ever since the GMO movement, and both sides have infiltrated that. Even historically, right down to the sovereign groups. The infiltration has been there, is so systemic and so deep rooted and decades long that, I think it's hard for people to be able to separate reality from, just the confusion. Because it is so systemic, and it's in the dialogue, it's in the media. Almost all of our local medias are spouting pretty much the same unified chorus. So unless you can get with good citizen journalists who, are honest and not being paid on the side to put out the information they're putting out and doing it research based and not emotional based, it's very hard to get at the truth. You do have to go beyond the islands to get that truth, and you do have to go back in history to get that truth, to put it all together, because in essence we are just one of the tentacles of a very big octopus that we're trying to you know disentangle ourselves from. And I think it's overwhelming for the average citizen to not only wrap their head around it, but to be able to figure out how we can effectively do that. And, unfortunately, I think we've come to a precipice where, military is probably going to be the only way to really disentangle us from that, because other than, forcing our way in ourselves and creating that kind of physical entanglement, which can result in all kinds of problems, including bloodshed, and we don't want that to happen. We don't want a civil eruption here. It's going to require that to get to the truth and the honesty and the transparency. But we can keep pushing, and we can keep pushing. We can keep putting the pressure on until things do start to pop. And I think that we've come to a place right now where people are really starting to open their eyes. I think a lot of people are still afraid to speak out. They're afraid of repercussions. Those of us that are very vocal, we have had our share of, harassment on all kinds of interesting levels for what we do. And it's been going on since pre-COVID, actually. And I think the other thing that's very difficult for people here is to understand or be able to comprehend the difference between the military-industrial complex and the Commander-in-Chief's military and the military alliance. I think it's very difficult for people to be able to separate those out. And so, yeah, it's, when you talk about the military, everybody cringes because we're used to the abuses of the military-industrial complex here.
Right, Red Hill and the Army spilling fuel, not caring about people. But actually, we have two former Marines in the group right now. Doug, I think your microphone is back on. If you're able to unmute and continue, that would be great. And, I was actually in the Air Force once upon a time, and I took an oath to protect the people and uphold the Constitution, and that stays with me until the very end of my life. Doug, are you able to speak on that point as well? The difference between the military industrial complex and our commander in chief's military? I think we're actually seeing like infighting within the military. But anyway, go ahead, Doug.
Well, no, you know what, Susie, I think it is. I appreciate your perspective. I think more people obviously need to wake up to what's going on. I think one of the sad factors that has contributed to the situation we have in the United States and Hawaii is that no one teaches history anymore, and in a lot of cases, nobody teaches civics. And the reason I bring that up is because if you have taken an oath, a couple things I want to point out is there's only two names in the oath. One is yours and one is God's. And that means you actually are entering a covenant with the Creator that you are going to do something. You're going to uphold this set of principles. And those principles are obviously embodied in a document, but some of them are in writing, but some of them are conceptual. And as you see what's happening across the United States, as people start to vote for people who want to rewrite the Constitution, that's very counter to the exact oath upon which many have taken. It is not to change the system. It's to work within the constraints of that system that was created. And that system works really well if it's empowered the way it was supposed to be. The thing I would bring up is most people know the Constitution created three branches of the government. The legislative, which writes the laws, the executive is supposed to enforce the laws, and the judiciary is supposed to interpret the laws. But there's a fourth branch of government that nobody talks about, and that's the one that created the Constitution, and that's the people. All political power in the state and the United States comes from the people. And so if we wait for the military to intervene, I think the people will have subjugated their responsibility to an entity which they despise in a type of scenario where the military has to come in and save the country from itself. I don't think that unfolds very well. And having served in the military, there's a lot of let's just say, caution about how the military is ever used against its own citizens. It's designed to fight against foreign invaders. One could make the argument, though, that the invasion has already occurred. They're inside the wire. They're already inside the government. They're embedded in the institutions. They're inside the judiciary. They're inside the legislature. They're everywhere, and they actually have control of the ship. If you listen to the president's address a couple weeks ago, he talked about foreign interference. And if you really go down the rabbit hole on foreign interference, you'll find plenty of evidence that suggests that that's been going on for a very long time, that there are multiple ways that the systems can be penetrated, and that has been occurring. So it's quite possible that we're already dealing with an enemy that is within. And so the oath, as you mentioned, is a pledge to uphold the Constitution to both enemies, foreign and domestic, which is why more people, those that took the oath, but also those that haven't, have to realize that they need to stand. And they need to not stand in aggression, but just stand and ask questions. And ask questions like, does it make sense? For example, in 2022, when the governor was inaugurated before the election was ever certified in Hawaii, did that make sense? If you were to drive your vehicle before you got your license, you would probably cited with some sort of violation. If you voted in person recently, you'll notice you had to sign a form that said you were something before you could actually vote. Well, they wouldn't let you vote if you didn't sign the form. So how is it possible that this individual that is now in charge of the state actually took control of the state before anything was done to certify the mechanism for which he got that position? And incidentally, if you really ask the question, it is a fact, you can find this in public record, that Mr. Nago signed the certificate of election for the governor on the 28th of November, several days before the inauguration on the 5th of December, and almost 2 weeks before the election was ever certified. And he also signed that certificate 2 days before verifying campaign spending requirements, which the law says you can't do. You can't sign the certificate unless you verify the campaign spending report was filed. So help me understand how people are concerned about tyranny, but yet we have a governor who didn't follow the lawful mechanism for taking office. And then he had the audacity to say on television that people were questioning whether or not his inauguration was legit. And he said, well, I was inaugurated on live TV. Well, that makes everything just fine, right? So just because something is seen and presented a certain way doesn't mean it's real. It doesn't mean it followed the lawful process. And when those that ask questions about that process, they get vilified. And all those people are trying to do is exactly what you brought up: uphold the oath. Uphold the oath that we took to support and defend the Constitution, which means 3 branches of government, which means legislation that was written by legislators that's supposed to be followed, and an executive branch that's supposed to follow that. And so far, all of that has been done in a very unfaithful manner, and brazenly, to your point, because Mr. Green was inaugurated in front of a bunch of people presented as lawfully elected before the law that says he was lawfully elected was ever completed. That's just a question. How is it possible? Help me understand how you can do that. And when the Attorney General was asked to provide that opinion, the Attorney General said that that opinion was protected by attorney-client privilege. Well, who's the client? I thought the people were the client. But no, the Attorney General refused to release that opinion, and that's in a court case that's on the public record if anybody's interested in researching that more. So the problems that we're seeing unfold in Hawaii are just an example of things that are unfolding across the United States. But I'll be honest, nobody's coming to save Hawaii. And more people need to not get upset, but it would be great if they asked questions. And it would also be great if the observers that have been observing the process don't accuse anyone of anything, just make the observation of what you saw. I had a woman yesterday contacted me, and she said, I watched them collect ballots at a ballot drop box. And she sent some pictures and showed what happened when they collected those ballots. I can tell you what it appeared as though happened, and what she told me was they didn't count them. They put them in boxes, they slapped a couple of seals on them, and there were no observers present. There was just state employees and county employees, one state employee and one county employee. And on most observer forms, and I think people who have been observers can attest to this, is there are always 2 observers required, but there were no observers present in any of that occurred. And so the people should be asking this question is, how is it possible when the law says that all ballot handling shall be done in the presence of official observers? We've got the county and the state picking up ballots at drop boxes, and nobody is watching the process. Just a question. So there's a lot that can be done, and frankly, more people need to step forward and be concerned, because the reason why you're getting the laws you're getting, the reason why you're getting tax increases, the reason why you're getting road use charges now on your vehicle registration fees, the reason why all these things are occurring is because individuals that are writing these laws are supposedly representative of you, but you don't agree with it, and you can't reconcile how it's possible. And the how it's possible is there seems to be a lack of accountability in the election process, and we should know why. And if you could ask questions, more people could ask questions, it would really help resolve that issue.
I want to drop a self-fulfilling prophecy. I think that someday soon we are going to see Scott Nago in front of Congress or Senate or whatever, just like Dr. Fauci, saying, I have to plead the fifth like over 100 times. That's my self-fulfilling prophecy. We are the people that make these kind of prophecies come true. So yeah, I support what Doug is saying. Yeah, we got to get up off of our butts and do it. And that is what the people in this group are doing. And hopefully the listeners on the radio will also start to get engaged more. And people don't really realize how close we actually are to getting rid of the corruption and the evil that has infested and infected this archipelago. It is becoming so undeniable that this thing is so corrupt. And pretty soon that rubber band is going to snap back. We got my big brother Aaron from Maui for Trump here. He's got his mic on. Ralph, if you've got anything else to share as well, we can give you another mic request. If anybody has any questions for Doug, it's always a real pleasure to hear from you, Doug. And yeah, I'm always learning something from you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
That was so eloquently put, and thank you so much for chiming in. I just want to offer my apologies. I have to jump off and take a critical call, and then I'll jump back on. So please keep going, and thank you, everyone. I just love this, just the input that we're getting here today. It's so valuable.
Yeah, thank you very much, Susie. We will continue to hold the space for you. I don't know if everybody else in this group knows Susie, but I've been talking to her for the past few years. And every time we have a phone call or a podcast, she is washing over my entire brain with just deep level knowledge and insight that is it's astounding to me how much there is to know and how much I don't know. So, Doug, you've been working the past few years with the Aloha Freedom Coalition. And actually, I saw you in the courtroom with Ralph when we tried to have I think it was called a summary judgment on the island of Kauai last year.
Declaratory judgment.
Declaratory judgment. So yeah. You highlighted something very important today, that we have a fourth branch of government, that it is we the people. We can form our own assemblies. And I do believe it's true that we do need to take back our government. We've got to take back our freedom. And I love the military, But what you said is very, very true. That if we just sit around and wait for somebody to come and save us, probably not going to happen. But I'm wondering, is there a lawful path for us to compel the military to help us to secure our elections? I don't know if you or anybody here has heard of anything like that. But yeah, I feel like we've got to use the systems that are in place and compel them to do their dang job.
You know, it's a great question. I'll take a stab at it, but I'll bring it back to the state, because I think waiting for things to happen at the national level, is one thing, but the things we can control are the things that are in our own backyard. And so, I know there's a lot of people who have, voiced ways that the president can use, powers in the Constitution to have the military do certain things. Of course, there's all kinds of conversations about continuity of government, and I don't want to go down that path because it's very complicated, and you know what? At the end of the day, who knows what's really happening at the national level? But I do think that if you bring it back to the local level, who controls the National Guard in the state? The governor does. The governor is the most powerful governor. The governor in Hawaii is one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful governor in the United States, because he appoints all these different department heads that run inside of the executive branch. And I don't have a number off the top of my head because there are many. He also has oversight of all boards and commissions, because all boards and commissions fall underneath the executive branch as well, and the military falls underneath the executive branch. So he's got control of that entity through that mechanism. So it'd be a lot to ask to think that, you know, the military and the state is scratching their head wondering why things are the way they are. So I hate to speculate, but what I would offer is, there's a belief that if we have a governor who is willing to address this, reconcile this issue, we could talk about, I believe it's HRS 172, which is the emergency powers authority that the legislature gave the governor prior to COVID in 2019, 2020 timeframe. It gives the governor an incredible amount of power. I think it's HRS 127, sorry. And there have been efforts inside the legislature to actually get control of those emergency powers, and they haven't been successful. They haven't been successful in articulating the problem, and frankly, I'll say they made a big mistake when they did it in the first place, because it gave the governor a lot of blanket authority, which eliminated separation of powers. So I think you have to recognize that, or rather take a perspective and just realize that this situation we're in is a marathon. There is no magical bullet. There is no lightning bolt. There is no one thing that's going to come and all of a sudden make things right. It's going to take some time. And I don't mean that in a way to discourage people. What I mean is there is light at the end of the tunnel, but that light comes through participation. And I'll offer that the other piece of that puzzle is the light comes through individual integrity. And so I've heard stories from people who work in the legislature where they tell me stories and they say they don't follow their own rules for the legislature in the legislature. And that's a sad scenario if that is in fact the case. You know, there's what's called House rules and Senate rules that dictate how they're supposed to handle different situations inside the House and the Senate. For example, if you submit a petition to the House of Representatives, so you have a grievance and you want to submit a petition, there's a way that that petition is supposed to be handled. And it's debatable whether or not those petitions are ever handled in accordance with the rules that the House and the Senate are supposed to handle them by. And so the way we change that, though, is when the individual staffer in the office recognizes that this isn't right, we shouldn't be doing these things this way. And then the supervisor in the office recognizes that this isn't right, we shouldn't be doing this way. And every individual in the chain starts to actually take responsibility for their own job in identifying a situation, if you will, where they recognize that something is wrong, and they say something about it, and or they do something about it. I think many people would agree that if someone knew of a, let's just say, a harassment scenario that was occurring inside of an office, you have a duty and or a responsibility to report that. Well, why do you not have a duty or a responsibility to report something such as the own House and Senate don't follow their own rules? It's an oxymoron again, where we accept certain things, but we don't accept others. And so all of this, or excuse me, the solution to this problem we're in really starts with the individual. It starts with that individual having a recognition that they actually do have responsibility and they do have the ability to actually do something when they see something that doesn't seem right. And it's not only do something, see something, say something, it's actually see something, do something. Because I think we are aware that there are a lot of people who complain about problems, but they don't actually ever do anything about those problems. And so let me bring you back to the observer's scenario, is that you don't have to be an observer to write a complaint and or an observation to the Elections Commission. So if you saw something during the conduct of the election that doesn't seem quite right, you can get on a commission meeting and you can provide testimony, but what you could do is knock it up a notch. And you can actually take that information, your testimony, and put it in writing. And put it in writing in the form of a complaint. And don't accuse anyone of anything, just say what you saw. You say something like, on such and such a day at such and such a time, I witnessed these individuals picking up ballots from a ballot drop box, and I noticed that there were no observers present, and that, the boxes, no one counted the envelopes when they collected them. They just put them in boxes and sealed them and threw them in the back of a van and drove off. That's an observation. But by actually putting that observation in writing, you've now given the commission and the commissioners something that they can actually act on. They can then do what the statute says they're supposed to do. They can determine whether or not they investigate that, or they don't. And that's how the commission's designed to operate. So they take a vote, they decide whether or not they want to investigate, and then they determine, an outcome. Frankly, one of the most incredible things that came of the last year of Elections Commission meetings was the 4 big reports. And three were done in 2024, I believe, and one was done in 25. But those reports said a lot. And the commission actually then subsequently took a vote, and they voted. This is an official government body for the state. And they took a vote, and that vote said that the chain of custody requirements for ballot accountability were not met in the 2024 election. I mean, that's a pretty significant finding. And they did that because somebody took the time to write a grievance, to write an observation, and then they subsequently invested that observation, and they found these findings. And, again, this is a marathon. It's not done yet. There's still a lot that's got to happen before we get through this full election cycle. And I think there's a lot of candidates out there that are, kind of sitting on the edge of their seat right now because there's some races that are pretty tight. And so those are the ones that obviously get your attention. But I would offer that if your race isn't tight, you should be asking the same questions, because the question is there or are there records that can show that the election is certifiable and verifiable? And I think one of the things that Ralph has identified over the course of multiple years of work is those records don't exist. They just don't exist. So you pay your credit card bill in the mail when you get it, you actually look at the charges, and when you see something that looks wrong, you question and challenge the dispute. Well, right now in Hawaii, you can't look at the credit card bill. You just pay the bill. You pay the bill in the form of, these are the people who got elected, and you're going to have to live with the next 2 to 4 years worth of consequences of what those people decide to do in the legislature. And that's a sad scenario. So it all starts with individual integrity. Whatever someone does, that's where we can start to change this trajectory. I yield.
Well said, Doug, and thank you for sharing that. It is true, because when this thing came out down the line, they're telling us to do lockdowns, and I didn't know anybody in Hawaii, but I just knew in my bones that this was like Chinese communism coming, because I lived there 18 years. And I just knew it, and I had to say something. And I figured I can't be the only one out here, even if it's only two other people that agree. We'll be able to at least find each other pretty easily. And we did. And then it became like a snowball. And now a lot of people have come forward saying that, yeah, we're not the only ones thinking this. We need to work to demand transparency no matter what to the very, very end. And what you had said earlier too about the government in or the governor in Hawaii being the most powerful governor in the United States out of all 50 states, in my research, that seems to be true. It was kind of set up like a fiefdom or like a marquis type of governance back in the days when the British Crown or the Spaniards would run colonies in the Caribbean or whatever. It's the same type of structure that was put out here, and that legacy is still alive. And my like China view eyes of like my 18 years there, seeing how they built the smart cities, looking at the general plans for the counties here in Hawaii, and seeing how they're slow walking out this quiet communism. They're calling it democracy, but really it's democratic socialists that are running for office or who are already in, who are giving the governor these powers. I really see Hawaii as being a test model for the rest of the United States. If these globalists can really secure power here in that way, then they will use the same model in every other state. But they don't know that they've already lost. We've actually already won. We are the tip of the spear, the few of us that are here doing this, but there are a lot more than just us. And they're quiet and they're waiting for their time to step forward. Susie's back. Go ahead, Doug.
Well, just I'll offer you that the time is now. The time is not tomorrow. The time is yesterday, but the time is now. And you know, the most powerful thing you can do is, I think, pray. And then when you get guidance, you know, do what that guidance is telling you should do. It's a little late to run for office, but it's not too late to support the candidate that actually has a core set of principles and a belief system that, let's just say, are similar to your own. And when that candidate gets into a position where they start determining and deciding and voting on legislation, hold them accountable. You know, you're seeing right now in Maui, I believe, people who sat and watched Lahaina burn are being reelected. It seems odd to me.
Unbelievable to me.
Yeah. So, well, then, so that gets you back to this issue of you should be asked, those people should be asking questions. And they don't need to be screaming and jumping on tables or anything, but they should be asking questions. And one of the first questions that you can ask in this scenario is, where are the records that show, the records that the law requires, that show that those candidates were actually elected lawfully? And I would offer you that they don't exist. And if they don't exist, then when the data goes to the vendor in the mainland and they tell us what the answer is, the people of Hawaii are not counting their vote. It's it's a company on the mainland is. So there are things that people can do now, and they need to do them now, because tomorrow is too late. And you know what? This is going to go on. This is going to go on for multiple generations. When people talk about the history of Hawaii, and I have a lot of respect for the people of Hawaii and the history of Hawaii and what happened to the Hawaii Republic and what it once was, and it still is. I recognize that it still exists in a certain form, but Hawaii was dominated by plantation. And if you look back in the history, you can see that in the history. You know, different plantations came in and ran sugarcane and different agriculture here. And then when they created the government, they created something that looked a lot like a plantation mentality. You got the plantation boss that sits on the top of the top of the heap, and he's got all his little minions that do his work for him, and he's got control of all of it. And so the legislature, the House and the Senate, all have an incredible amount of power if they actually took it. But sadly, it seems like they've fallen prey to that as well. So, good conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Yes, I've only seen two elected officials actually try to go to bat for election integrity, which is Brenton Ava, who appointed Tamara Mackay as a commissioner after she was actually elected as chair, but then blocked by the lawyers. So yeah, Brenton, shout out to Brenton Ava. And then there's also Representative Shimizu. He came up to Ralph and handed him his card. All these other elected officials are running the other way. They don't want to hear anything about this. They don't want to talk about anything like this. So it makes me very concerned for these legislators who are voting to give Josh Green more powers for the governor, and to take away the veto power of the local government. This is a very interesting time indeed, but I do believe there are people elected in office who are just scared to come against the beast system. But if you're listening to this, we're talking to you. There's only, there's a price for your soul, right? Eternity. You know in your heart if you're doing the right thing. If you standing as an individual are really standing on your power, and like Doug said earlier, you got to pray. You got to pray and you got to listen, and then you have to be brave enough to do what you know in your heart is the right thing to do. And we are closer than ever to getting resolution on this. And it's going to be messy, and it might be 20 more years. I was telling my brother Aaron, who's in the space now from Maui for Trump, on January 6th, when things went sideways and our election was stolen, I told him, bro, we might be fighting for 20 years. In history, what war has ever finished in like 2 weeks? And don't kid yourselves, folks. There is a war against us.
Well, and Andrew, if I may, you could probably say, if you studied this, that this war has been going on potentially as long as the United States has been here, but certainly since JFK was assassinated. And someone else has been in control for a long time. But that doesn't mean that we have to accept it in the state. So we can take control and or take some responsibility in our local communities through our neighborhood boards and through our local representative, House and Senate, is step one, and then start to regain some ground and just some common sense. I'm not partisan. I think there's good Democrats out there, there's good Republicans, and there's bad of both. And there are other parties that are out there as well. And if those candidates reflect your values, then that's great. Support them. That's the way the system is supposed to work. That's what a representative government is all about. And if we do truly have the constitutional republic that we are supposed to have, that means that the minority vote, or the minority voice, if you will, the one, matters just as much as the 99. And that's not a tyrannical government construct. It's actually the most anti-tyrannical. So when people say that, they fight against tyranny, but yet we've got a governor and a government system in Hawaii that is very designed to be tyrannical, again, it defies logic. And that's why it goes back to this fundamental of, what do people really know? What did they learn? Do they understand and or recognize how things were designed in their core between the three branches, and how the government used to operate? And how it all begins with that individual and that pact, that contract, if you will, that oath, that individual takes, that covenant that they enter with the Creator and themselves, that they're going to uphold a set of principles. And so when they're actually actively working to undermine those principles, then they are just violently or vehemently in violation of the oath that they took with the Creator. So it's self-defeating right from the start. And we need to call those people out.
Absolutely. So we've got the general election coming in October. Is that right?
That's right. I think it's sorry, not October, November.
Oh, November.
Tuesday, November 3rd, as I recall, something.
We got Susie back with her mic. Welcome back.
valuable discourse. I just really appreciate everything that you're weighing in with this as well, Doug. I think the information here is so critical that people can take this and absorb it. Because and you know, I also want to offer hope. I'm just going to share my perspective because I don't want to say anything set in stone, but I do believe in my heart of hearts, no, we can't go on another 20 years. Some things will run on longer because they need to be unraveled and reassessed. But I think some of the critical things like election, I think that is going to get addressed. I think it's going to address soon. I do believe we are at the tipping point because a lot of the generals is the same thing. If we don't get our elections straightened up this year, we could lose this country to the globalists, to the socialists, and the other infiltrators that are all partnering with us and who will turn on each other once they get any kind of vestige of power. So I do think that there is going to be a culmination of everything, and I think it's coming up rapidly. Hopefully before the November elections, that we'll see a lot more exposed. If not, and perhaps the November elections could be postponed in lieu of what's going on, depending on how long this is going to run, how just crazy it's going to get. But I do think that we are in a point now of just really everything flying to the surface. And, it is a process. Some things have to be done through the courts. Some things will be played out through the courts so that the public can learn what's been going on behind the scenes. And some things that are super critical that the public might not be able to be prepared emotionally to absorb will be handled, I believe, through JAG military. I don't know if anyone noticed General Michael Flynn posted across all his social medias yesterday that the storm has arrived. And that's a very telling statement that it is going to increase in intensity now. So, yeah, I think we're going to see some action. I think a lot of us are hoping for quick resolutions, and I think as Americans and transplants and anything else, people are used to instant gratification. We've been at this for 7 years. This has been like a 7-year war. The origins of this war go way back. If you want to go historically back, they go back as far as the Crusades. And that's a whole other story. That's a whole other podcast. But it's breaking up a 1,000-year-old, control mechanism is no small feat. And but I do believe, at least where the elections are concerned, and those I think we will get transparency. I think there will have to be intervention, and it's just that's going to play out as anybody's guess. But I do think that we are on the cusp of some action of some sort.
Yeah, it feels like it's coming to a head for sure. I mean, I agree with Doug about it being a marathon. We have to treat it as a marathon and not expect that we're going to have a quick win. But if you play any of these war games, you can see that sometimes things can just change suddenly, and then the entire board is cleared, and then you have a clear and decisive victory. And I really believe that the victory is in the hearts and the minds of the individual people, that the people in America are waking up. Doug, do you want to share on that? Oh, I see his speaker is going, but I don't hear him. Are you able to hear him, Susie? We've got about 13 minutes left on today's broadcast. I want to thank everybody who has come on, and maybe we can have a closing prayer later. Doug, your mic was off, on, and then off again. Let's see if you can try to unmute and share any closing remarks.
Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate you helping walk me through that. Thanks for hosting the space. Thanks for doing what you're doing. Thanks for having these conversations. I think it's a remarkable thing that we have with technology where we can actually collaborate this way along a long distance. But one of the sad parts about technology is we don't talk to our neighbors anymore, or maybe as much as we used to. And I'm pretty confident. I know most of my neighbors, and I don't know exactly how they feel about everything, But I know that if times ever really got tough, I know, that those neighbors are going to be looking out for me, and I'm going to look out for them. And I think we need more of that. And I think if we start there, we can actually make some strides as well in moving things forward. And I get the impression that regardless of what the outcome of the elections are, they don't reflect the values of my neighborhood. And so I think there's a lot to be said there, and that just leads me to ask more questions. So I just encourage more people to ask questions and to get involved and to pray for that guidance, and whatever the guidance they get, they do it. And it's going to get us on a better path than we're on right now. So thank you so much for hosting.
Thank you so much, Doug. Automatic. Give me liberty or give me you know what. I was going to talk about a bunch of fluff on this show and just try to keep my head down and get my foot in the door in the mainstream media. But, like I said, like you said, I prayed and I asked for guidance, and God said, nope, you got the platform. So you got to talk about Doge in Hawaii. You got to talk about Ralph Kushney. So here I am doing it, and you guys showing up, and actually, you guys I feel are actually qualified to talk about this stuff. I'm just the one, for whatever reason, who's able to get his loud mouth open and get the door open here. So without you guys, really, I wouldn't be able to do anything that I'm doing. So I want to give you guys all of the credit.
There's no I in team, so thank you, Andrew.
You saw that meme? It's in the a-hole.
Oh no, I haven't seen that. Sounds like a good.
Yeah. If you cut out the contrast of the capital letter A, it does have an I. It's in the hole of the A.
Oh, gotcha.
It's in the a-hole. Susie, are you still with us? We've got about 10 minutes left to land this plane.
So very much. It's so valuable. I just can't say enough.
So
this is time. These are the times.
Moving forward, I assume that they tried to sweep Megeso under the rug as mayor of Kauai. Did he get knocked out of the primary?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so hopefully, yeah, I'm not happy to hear that. Because if we can get one candidate, whether it's county council or it's mayor or it's whatever position, Ralph Kushney is our example. We get one guy in there or one lady who is speaking truth and pushing for it like a bulldog, whether it's in OHA or in this or that, like it's going to just crumble this whole thing. So, yeah, I hope that you and Megeso can have a little bit more free time to be on this radio show and help to enlighten the masses.
Other campaigns, and I was just going to say before I lost my train of thought that things could be very different between now and November as well, and there are there's a good chance that some people that are elected in office were not duly elected. So it's going to be a very interesting process. And, we just want to congratulate everyone who has made it through the primaries. We're excited about the good people that are in there, and some of the other ones were predictably pushed to the forefront. We expected that. And we'll see how that plays out. So, it's just going to be really interesting between now and November. I think we're going to see just a lot of, as the onion gets peeled away, we're going to see a lot of things that are very surprising and not surprising, but revelations nonetheless. So, yeah, absolutely.
And I still want to encourage whoever's listening to run in the next cycle, right? Run for office so that you can show and you can see for yourself. But this, like Doug said, the time is now. Don't wait until then. Get behind a candidate that you agree with, whether they're Republican, Democrat, Independent. Yeah, and I've met some Democrats here in Hawaii who are very reasonable, nice people. I don't like the party and what they stand for now, but that's a different topic. But they're real human people. Get to know our neighbors. Go talk to them. Find out something about them, because if the power gets shut off, the water gets shut off, it's another Lahaina situation, and FEMA's not coming to save us. Nobody's coming to save us except for ourselves and our neighbors. So we've got 7 minutes left. I would like to say a grateful prayer to God, to Jesus, to our Creator for making this possible, for giving us that armor of God, because I don't think I would be alive still. I think I would be in cement boots or be shark bait if it wasn't for God. uh, and even getting me to Hawaii. It's amazing that I survived my teenage years, even. So thank you, God, for that. Thank you for all these beautiful people. There's no way I would know Doug or Susie or pretty much anybody in here if it wasn't for how everything's gone these past few years. And if it wasn't for listening to God telling me to get out there and open my loud mouth. So the future looks bright, folks. Support whoever you can that looks like a good candidate. Hold them accountable. Get them into office. If they start going sideways, well, you've got some leverage on them because you helped to get them in there. And it's your responsibility to keep them on the straight and narrow. So, yeah, I don't end my prayers with amen, by the way, guys. I just thank Jesus, Yeshua, Io, Keakua, many names for the one creator that did create this whole simulation that we're in. I mean, we are made of God's thoughts, in my opinion. Go ahead, Susie.
I was just going to say, is there anyone else who would like to add any comments or thoughts or experiences since we have a few minutes left? If there was anybody that wanted to, everyone else has been pretty quiet.
The mics are a little bit glitchy today. It's been really hard even getting you guys the mic. We got Aaron from Maui for Trump, founder of Maui for Trump, who actually was a big reason why I moved to Hawaii. He's my big brother. And I didn't know left and right, red and blue back then. I just thought, like, okay, Trump people seem to be my kind of people. They believe in God and family and truth and justice. And he had these 4,000 followers on Facebook. I thought, okay, I'll be surrounded by like-minded people. I had no idea I was coming to a blue state. It was all taken over. Aaron, are you online and able to unmute, brother? It might be his. Oh, there he is. Welcome, Aaron.
Aloha. How is everybody today?
Beautiful, brother. Good to hear your voice.
Great. Just let you guys all know that everything is going really well in many ways. However, God has plans, and I appreciate everybody working hard to do things. That's what I'm talking about everything doing really well, because I think people are working really hard, although we do have a lot of things that are a challenge. But I appreciate everybody. I just want to say thank you, and God bless all of you.
Thank you so much.
Beautiful. So everybody, please share this space. Do the little scissor icon and cut. We're here every Sunday, 12 o'clock Hawaii Standard Time to 2 p.m., talking about election audits, integrity. I could talk about other stuff, but God's telling me to stay on this and force the mainstream media to start talking more about election integrity, and for us to really get the people in Hawaii to mobilize behind this. This is the one card. Actually, Doug said there's no silver bullet, but I do believe free and fair elections are the silver bullet. If we can get free and fair elections, everything else comes out of that. Underpinning that, of course, is freedom of speech, and here we are standing on it. I'm holding this line with you guys because if they take this from us, then we really are toast. But yeah, if we don't get this general election, it's not that we don't have America anymore. It's that we shift gears and then we go into a different type of conversation. Soft power. I'm all about that soft power. A few years ago, when we locked down all the airports just by driving real slow around them, Josh Green really didn't like that. I'm not recommending anybody do anything like that now, but I'm just saying that's what happened. And yeah, if the tyranny continues, the people are smart enough that they're not going to let things happen, that they are going to find little annoying, very consistent ways to throw monkey wrenches into this beast system. There are many weaknesses with this house of cards. So we like to do everything peacefully, lawfully, kindly, and that's what we're going to do. We're just going to be nice and consistent. So I'm going to end on that, guys. We got a couple minutes early, but you know, I have a way of just talking too much. So I want to thank God, thank everybody here again. Thanks for showing up, and I hope to hear from you guys again next week. Let's get some updates. And in between now and then, let's reach out to more people like Peter Bernegger, the lawyer that's filing against Scott Nago. Let's find some hotshot attorneys and hotshot Tucker Carlsons or something. Like, let's get these people talking with Ralph and putting Ralph onto the national stage. He's got the goods. Go ahead, Susie.
No, it's a great idea. Definitely get some more guest speakers so all of the subjects, so we can really, make some wonderful, effective changes and awareness out there. And you're doing great, by the way, and thank you so much for sharing this venue with us for these very important topics.
It's your show. It's your show. Thank you. I'm going to close out now. You're listening to KPMW Maui Mix 105.5 FM on your radio dial, your Pinoy hit station, Puso ng Pilipino, the heart of the Filipino in Hawaii. Hali'i Maili. I am MC Shy Guy, aka Andrew, and you've been having a nice little idea exchange. Get out and vote correctly. Aloha. All right. We're off on the radio. Thanks so much, guys. I can't even hear you now. My settings are all off. So if you can still hear me, thanks so much, and I'll be in touch. Aloha and a hui hou.